Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Everything Seaplace. My name is Mike Renick. I am your host for this video. I've got a special guest. I'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Mike shouldn't be a stranger to all of us. Mr. Angers, Mike Angers, is with us today. Mike, thank you. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Mike is our insurance broker representing Seaplace. And there's this whole process that most of us are uneducated about. I'm guilty. I'm uneducated. I know that in Florida, we hire our insurance broker. Our broker, either he or she goes out and they canvass all the insurance companies and they bring back opportunities and deals. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so we're in that process right now. Our policy, or the big policy, renews beginning of August 8th or something like that.
August 8th is the big one.
That's burned into my memory because we had to have the roofs done last year.
Right.
So I will never forget that. So This is unrehearsed, it's unscripted. I asked Mike to be prepared to share what are the things that happen behind the scenes as they're working to deliver a package for Seaplace. So Mike, go ahead. You drive this bus and let's see where we end up.
Yeah, and stop me if you have any questions along the way.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole idea is, so what actually do we do for you? You know, people see us here collecting money, you know, maybe if there's a claim and so forth, but what happens behind the scenes getting you prepared for your program? And I can tell you that the data and the paperwork and the communications with the carriers goes on for months prior before you see me. So what we do for you, and the main project that an agency will do for the clients, is we put together your program and shop out your program to make sure you get the most comprehensive and competitive program every single year.
So let's talk about how that looks. You put together our program and you shop it out.
Yep.
How does the shopping out process work?
Yep. So what we'll do is, so let's just say let's just say for August 1st is your date. So let's go back 4 months prior to that. All your data that we collect for the association, and we get with your manager and we get with you, you know, any updates and anything, all the data we collect goes out to the carriers. Some of them are 120 days prior, and some of them are 90 days prior. So
you're really asking them to bid or quote on our insurance, right? When you send all that data out, is that correct?
So it basically reserves your spot, and it gets them the first initial look at the program. So they take a look. Our job is to make you look as good as possible. Like last year, we were working on the roofs. You know what? With those roofs, it makes everything look better for you. Roofs is a huge concern, and it obviously made a difference in our premiums. So what we do is we gather all the data, you know, a couple months prior to that, we get with your team, we work with our team, we put together all these applications, supplementals, photographs, appraisal, new MIT forms. All the data comes together, and we put it together in this big pile, and then we try and sell it to the carriers. Now,
so putting that together sounds like a fairly intensive process.
Huge process. It isn't just a snap and get it done. You're talking.
You don't fill out a one-page application.
No.
Tell me more about what happens with that.
So, in today's world is worse than it's ever been. You would think they want everything but a blood sample.
That's coming next.
Well, that could be coming next. I mean, they're wanting to know your roof information. They're wanting to know your update. They're wanting to know your rental information. They're wanting to know any plumbing updates, any electrical updates, any changes, and they all also ask for loss history. So we're giving them loss history from your association to see kind of what you guys have been looking like for the past few years.
And you have to work hard, because if there's mistakes made and it comes claim time, they may not pay a claim because we gave them, even though it was human error, inaccurate information. Is that correct?
100%. If you read what you sign at the end, it basically says if you're giving inaccurate data, it is fraud. It's a third-degree felony.
So, but even, you know, fraud to me is when someone purposely does that, but even for like human mistakes, there's got to be a lot of checks and balances, I would think, on your part to make sure everything you're collecting from Seaplace is up to date and accurate.
100%. There's so many different variables in there, the data. So we go through it in detail, and we don't take everyone's word for it. We literally will go through things, and we found errors going back year after year. So there is a ton of legwork behind the scenes that goes into putting together the new applications, the new supplementals, getting them out to the carriers at that 90 or 120 day. Now all of a sudden, they have the data, okay? And when I say get it out to the carriers, so just so everyone's clear is, when you go out to an agency and you pick an agency, I just want to make sure, because this is a big sticking point, is, you know, only, and this is Florida, don't shoot the messenger, this is the way Florida said,
Yeah.
only one agent can represent your association to a carrier. So Brown
Is
and
that
Brown,
common across the United
that
States?
is, that's Florida.
Just Florida.
Well, all I know is Florida.
Okay, no,
so
that's fair.
I know
That's
it's
fair.
Florida, and I know it's different in other states, but
Okay.
just in Florida, one agent. So what you want to do is you want to pick an agency that has access to the carriers, has the knowledge, and the wherewithal to place your program.
Are there any carriers, in an answer of I'm not sure is acceptable, are there any carriers that could insure Seaplace that you do not have access to?
100% no.
So you have everything.
I have every carrier that's out there. When I moved to Brown & Brown, I moved to Brown & Brown because I was getting beat by Brown & Brown.
Okay.
And that was 19 years ago. We have access. Brown & Brown has 500 plus offices, 30 plus in Florida. We write more condos than anybody in the state. And on the flip side, we actually have, in Sarasota and Manatee County, I have 2 carriers that no one else has in Sarasota and Manatee County.
Okay.
So on the contrary, we have more. So we have right now, I kind of took a look, we have about 56 carriers that we approach for property.
And those are because not all carriers will insure a property like this.
100%. So let's look back as you're saying that. So many carriers won't want to take on, you're about close to 150 million in values.
Appraised value, yes.
In appraised value, so that we need to insure out here. If there's a loss, somebody's got to write a check for 150 million. Many carriers, some carriers won't write more than 30 million. A lot of them hit at 50, so there's very few. So we say we have 56, but reality is there's only a couple that will even teeter over that $100 million mark.
Will the others, I've heard something about putting together a layering
Yep.
package.
Yep.
Does that happen in this process?
It does, and the funny thing is, and this shows you how, and it lets you know, I have no alliance with anybody. I want you to know that. So in the past, I kind of put together a little spreadsheet. We've had changes. I've been with you all since 2015.
Okay.
14, 15, I forget. My back surgery was 14, so maybe it was in 14.
Okay.
But I remember coming in at that point. So we've changed carriers about 19 times, different carriers, liability, property, and so forth. We've had several times to where we've had what they call the layered programs, to where you have, let's just say, and in your case, several times through 2018 through 2021, we had 10 carriers sharing in the risk. So let me tell you how that works.
Okay.
So let's just say, for round numbers, you're 100 million in values, because at one point you were 108, and you have 10. Let's just say, for easy math, one person takes 10 million, next person takes 10, and so forth. It's not always that easy. Somebody may take the first 2.5 million, somebody may take 5 excess, but we build them up like that, so it shares the risk. Claim time, the payout's the same thing. One claim, one claims adjuster and all that, but behind the scenes, they share the risk contractually.
So if, under your scenario, if we have $1 million claim that gets paid, does the first layer pay it, or is it spread across all the layers?
No, a lot of times, and again, that's why the first layer is the most expensive. They're on the hook for the first layer. Yeah, so the hardest layer to place in a program like this, in a layered program, is the first, and it's the most expensive.
That makes sense.
So yeah, because if you don't want to be on the first layer, because you're going to be hit every single time there's a claim. You want to be on that last layer, but the last layer is a lot less expensive.
Okay.
Okay, so what we do is, we'll shop it out to layered programs to make sure, and that was competitive for you at one point, and then the market changes. Think to yourself, the market goes up and down. It's just like anything else. Sometimes the market is good, sometimes the market is not so good.
We're in a not so good portion right now.
Things are starting to come back, and I want to be clear on that. I want to make sure we hit on this, because people are coming to me, hey Mike, the market's starting to soften. And it is. And what that means is, when it's softening, more carriers are coming in.
Okay.
But what's happening is, think about this, and we have to be realistic. When the new carriers are coming in, if you're a new carrier coming in the state of Florida, what are you going to do?
Cherry pick.
Cherry pick is the perfect word. And we didn't pre-rehearse this. That's the exact word
not at all.
that I would say.
I'm going to take, if I'm that carrier, the best of the best, the lowest risk properties.
And where? Inland.
Yes, away
So
from
you're
the
gonna
barrier
pick
islands.
all that new stuff that's going up inland, and you're going to fill your buckets. So that's what's happening right now. And they will work their way out to the islands, but right now, that it hasn't really softened too much on the islands.
Okay.
So a lot of people on the islands are still feeling the pain. I still have, and this is going to hurt, but I still have associations out on this island and on Siesta Key that don't have full coverage.
And see, that was one of my biggest fears last year. It was getting coverage, but then could we get full coverage? Because I was aware of that you had those situations. So last year was a tough year. We got that behind us. So that's a good news story. Are you finding, so when they go to renew this year, in your opinion, do you think they'll stand a chance to get more full coverage?
Yeah, so I've had some renewals. The first partial coverage last year, I remember it because it was the first time in my career of 30 years, it was April 18th. They've already renewed. They still don't have full coverage. They have more coverage, but they still don't have full coverage. And it's for different reasons, and the main reason is because of some of the Citizens guidelines are really tough. Now, again, some people had roof issues. We did away with that, thank goodness. I'm telling you, I can't tell you and stress how nice it is to have that roof, because we have that backdrop of we will always get full coverage if we have that roof through Citizens. Okay, and Citizens right now for a lot of people is more competitive than the market out here. So we are in a good spot. Does that make
Unlike
sense?
a year ago.
Unlike a year ago where we were questioning if we were going to get if we didn't get our roofs done, we wouldn't have got full coverage last year.
And the fear is without full coverage, we impact the condo owners that have mortgages. That was going to be a hill I didn't want to have to climb, and we didn't have to.
Thank goodness, because it is a problem. Because think about this, and you're in the real estate business, you know, Fannie and Freddie, they won't loan unless you have full coverage.
That's right.
They won't loan if you have these deductibles that are over 5%. So it poses a whole new problem. And when you can't get a loan, if I'm an owner in an association that can't get it, the bank wants coverage. So what are they going to do? They force place coverage on me for 5 times the amount that it normally would be. So we cross that bridge. You know, obviously we're coming up on the new renewal. We've already got you out to all the carriers. Okay, so there's not a carrier that won't take a look. But let me be realistic. Okay, we get it out to the carriers that 120 days and 90 days. Quotes are only good for 30 days. So we really don't start seeing numbers until close to that 30-day mark.
So August 1st, sometime in a couple of weeks, you should start seeing some numbers?
Start seeing some, you know, touches. Hey, Mike, we don't want this. Or, hey, Mike, we're interested. Give us some more data. So we'll be going back to your team. Hey, you know what, tell us about this, or reiterate a little bit on this, update, tell us this. And then we'll start getting some indications. And then it's not always, you know, in a market like this, sometimes it's a carrier will give me an indication and they'll throw a number. Call it $1 million. Okay, they throw a number out. In a perfect world, if I've got 2 or 3 people competing, I beat them up against each other to get them down to their best dollar. Okay, so now the negotiations out on the islands are a little bit tougher because, again, if you only have one carrier, who do you negotiate them against?
Well, I call it, when you sit down to negotiate, I've been taught that you assess the position of strength. The condo associations last year were not in the position of strength. It was the carriers. It was Citizens. So last year, Citizens was the only one that would look at oceanfront or Gulfront condos. Do you think, and if it's an unfair question, stop me, that there may be some opportunities where other carriers will give us numbers this year?
I think they might give us a number. I still think Citizens, price-wise, for this value, because it kicks out all the real competitive ones. The real competitive guys are doing 50 and under. That's just the real reason. We might get a layered program to look at. Will it have higher deductibles and higher premiums? I think it will. Because Citizens, I think, in these hard markets, if you think to yourself, I've been doing this for 30 years. 05, 06, after the 04, 05 storm season, everyone was with Citizens. You all were with Citizens, 99% of the association. Then all of a sudden, I have no policies with Citizens. Then around 13, 14, had everyone with Citizens again. Then, 3 years ago, I had 0 policies with Citizens. So Citizens, just so everybody knows, it is a state-run program, insurance program, that's funded by us, the policyholders, and it's the avenue of last resort. Okay, they do not want you in there, but you have to have insurance. And if none of the other carriers, if they're all running for the hills and running for the border, you have to have coverage. So that's why Citizens was formed. Actually back in 1992, it was the FWA, Florida windstorm, after Hurricane Andrew came through. When all the carriers ran, that was our first taste of it. The state came in. 2002, it became Citizens. So, and people are concerned. Let me just clear this up too. Citizens will be here to respond. You will get paid. We fund Citizens, and if there's not enough money, we the policyholders,
the taxpayers.
The policyholders. Yeah, the policyholders. So your policy funds that you go into a bucket. Now, if there's a loss and that bucket empties out from all the claims, what they do is they get a bond to pay the claims, and then you can see an assessment. Okay. But let me be clear on this: they can also assess non-Citizens policyholders. The only assessment that I've seen in my 30 years was on the policy from the 2004-2005 storm season. There was an assessment on the 2006-2007 policy. It was very minimal.
And that's been over almost 20 years.
Yeah, it's been
now.
a long time. So, and they've learned a lot. So I would say you could feel comfortable. Do I want us to stay in Citizens? If there's a better avenue, no. But do we need Citizens? We were pleased to have Citizens last year because we got full coverage, we got replacement costs, we got a 5% deductible, and it was probably half of what the next best thing would have been.
So here's what I'm hearing right now. We're in the process. We've gone out to all these carriers.
Yep.
We're within the 120-day window. We'll start seeing some, I'm not interested, or I am, and here's some numbers probably starting in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And then you'll go through and you'll do all the analysis and stuff like that. You'll put together the best of the best package for Seaplace, come back out here and sit down and review it. And will we have, let's say different companies are willing to do it layered or non-layered or whatever. Will you lay that out so we can make does Seaplace make the decision then?
You
with
all
your
make the
guidance?
decision.
Okay.
My job is to put it out there. I always put in what, if I lived out here, being in the business, being an educator for the state of Florida, what I think is the best program, best bang for your buck, and keep you compliant with the statutes. Then what you'll see in the back, or if there's two close options, I'll do option one, option two. But if something is like way outside money-wise or whatever, it goes in the back. So you all see everything. We're very transparent. You see every carrier approached and their responses.
So there's nothing held back.
Nothing. Oh, I can tell you, Brown & Brown is publicly traded. You will have more data than you, I mean, if you want to go to sleep at night, you read my proposal, it'll put you right to sleep.
Might take you up on
Well, I'm sure you've done it. I'm sure you've done it.
So the thing, all right, so being a real estate broker is the same thing. If I list a home or a condo and there's multiple offers, I lay everything out.
Yep.
Now, because my license is at a higher standard, I'm a single agent, I can and will make a recommendation to the seller, but it's the seller's decision.
Correct.
They see everything. Nothing is held back. They get all the detailed offers. They get the analysis in Excel. I'm hearing you say you do the same thing for us for insurance.
100%. You are the decision maker. We put the recommendations in there. We keep you compliant with the statute, and we lay it all out for you. And we go through everything, and this is every year. So the program that you're hearing about right now in the process is what we do from you from the first year that I got you, that I won your business and earned your trust. Every single year, same process. So it doesn't be like, oh, you know what, things are lackadaisical, the market's better. You still get shopped out to every carrier, every year. We go through everything in detail. We sit down as a board, as we've done in the past, and the board makes decisions. We've made different changes.
Yeah.
Hey, let's change the crime, let's change the liability, let's do this. And reality is this. Think to yourself this, I kind of totaled this out. You have 10 different types of policies.
Okay.
You have your property, liability, you got your crime, your umbrella, you got your directors and officers liability. There's a ton. So we can't expect your board of directors to come in. So we'll go out, we'll shop the broadest policies, we'll put the broadest programs, get you the best and explain it to you so you all have that understanding. But there's so much detail in there. I say you have those 10 policies, and then you have 18 flood policies on top of that through the federal government. So this is not a small program.
No.
And I wouldn't expect for any of the board. So you got to make sure that you're being taken care of, you're being shopped properly, and that's where we talk about it, but then we show you everything we've done.
A few weeks ago, or 3 months ago, we went through another analysis and we looked at a couple of brokers. There was some types of coverages that were highlighted that we may want to look at that we couldn't get before. Are those included in your package?
Well, here's the thing. We'll always look for the broadest that we can get.
Okay.
And Citizens doesn't offer some of those coverages that were brought out. But as the market softens, yes, we can get them.
Okay.
So the idea is, I want you to have the broadest. So at the time of a claim, you know, we can get the most bang for our buck. But insurance, we have to realize, and especially in a tough market, it's going to, you know, give you the big number, the 148 million, but it may not give you the bells and whistles as you would have had 10 years ago outside.
Now, when you see that some of the bells and whistles are missing, do you have the chance then to try to go off and just grab that little bell and whistle?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes. And if you can, we'll look at it and we talk about it and we say, hey, here's this coverage on a separate line, it's this. And you say, well, is it required by statute? And you make sense. And insurance is that transfer of risk,
Yeah.
you know, for a price. So you say, oh, that makes sense for us, that doesn't. This deductible makes sense, this doesn't. So that's where we talk about it. But you have to realize this, Mike, in a hard market, there's very few things to look at like that. You know, we're just trying to get the main coverage. When the market is soft and you got a bunch of carriers out here doing their thing, then they might throw in some bells and whistles that we're looking for.
So things have shifted, and correct me if I'm wrong on my assessment. Things have shifted, I'm going to use the word dramatically, from a year ago, because a year ago we were concerned about getting full coverage. This year that doesn't seem to be a concern. Full
Correct.
coverage will be a given. A year ago, I was told before the process began by a different insurance agent that the only one that would touch us would be Citizens because we're Gulfront. This year, that may or may not be true, right? We don't know yet. It's too early, so that's a possibility. So we're right in the verge where this information is going to start to become available to us. So again, in summary, I asked the question up front, are there any carriers that you don't have access to? You said no.
Zero.
You've gone out to all of the above to get the best package for us. We will see all the responses. So if you went to 40 carriers or 20 carriers or 56 or whatever, we'll see those responses. There's nothing that's hidden at this point. And as we go forward, our big renewal is for August 1st. And so we're about 5 weeks away from that. We got July and we got a week left in June. It's hard in Florida for me to remember what month it is because the seasons never
almost
change.
July.
Yes, because in
Right.
Michigan things change where I'm from. So we're getting close. Maybe in a couple of weeks we'll start having some numbers, but we're in a lot better position than we were a year ago, right?
Yes.
And then we'll see what happens. Now I want to switch. Is there anything else you want to share before I switch topics?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. So right now, here's what's going on. And a video is being released today that I hosted with Kurt Baker. We're not accepting the status quo in terms of we're getting ready for the future. The owners are diligently going through upgrading their glass for hurricane standards or putting hurricane shutters. We're looking at a door and louver project for front doors. That'll be coming out. But in addition, there are what I call common windows and common doors. And we're in the process of upgrading those. Wendy's gone out for quote, like in the M1 building, on every floor, there's either a laundry room or a storage room. Those all have glass windows. They will be replaced shortly. We've got to look at all the doors on the stairwell. We have louvers in our elevator rooms in each of the buildings. We don't use the louvers, so we're looking at can the louvers be taken out and cement block put in place. We're looking at taking this to the next level in terms of hardening our buildings. Because in my opinion, these insurance companies are going to be tougher going forward in terms of which properties they want and which properties they don't want. Is that a fair assessment?
100%.
So in your opinion, are we moving in the right direction in terms of trying to seal up Seaplace and get it hardened?
Yeah, so if you were to say to me, hey, Mike, and I get this question all the time, what can we do to present ourselves better? Our idea is this. When I take all that data, I'm selling you to the carrier. I'm providing all the data to say, I want you in the yes pile. And then when we get in the yes pile of we're going to quote it, then we negotiate the terms. So we got to get you in that yes pile. So if you're an underwriter, what are the main concerns? I can tell you there's two major concerns. One is the roof. We've already tackled that. Huge. The next is kind of a pie in the sky, but if you said what is the best thing these buildings are going to be here, that's correct. It is the impact resistance of the building. Okay, you're only as strong as your weakest point.
Yep.
So you can have a building, if you put an impact glass in that entire building and you have that new roof on there, that's all you can do. You put yourself in the best position. But it's got to be every opening, every exterior, because the envelope has got to be sealed. So
one area that's missed makes the whole building at risk.
100%. So if you're going to do it, and you know the buildings, here's what I'll tell you, and I know this is a big price tag, because 3 years ago I looked at it at my house, and I don't know if I told you about this, but I went back and I'm like, no, I can't afford that. My wife and I decided we're going to stay there. Okay, Ian came along, knocked out a gentleman that does what I do, and put him out of his home because of the hurricane. And when he was going through the process and having to be there for his clients, he had to live elsewhere. I reached out and I did the impact glass last year. It was expensive, more expensive than it was 3 years ago. But you know what? I didn't look back. Now I know that I'm going to be there forever. I've done everything that I can, and I feel safe.
So you've been a part of a lot of the meetings. Is there anything, and I want you to be candid, you're always candid and transparent. Is there anything we aren't doing right now, or anything you haven't heard us talk about doing that we need to look at to keep Seaplace in a strong position?
No. We got the roofs. Anytime I need data or information, you all are on top of it. The board, you're more active than a lot, which is good, because you're a huge property. You got big dollars you're paying out here, and we take that seriously. So I think we've all worked together, your team, my team, to put you in the best position. And like I said, if you wanted to be in the elite position, that would be Impact Glass. I mean, we're in a good position because you know what, you're well maintained, you got the roofs, you know, the market's starting to settle. But if you wanted to put yourself up in that one more, because what it does is, and I want everybody to be clear on this, if you take a look at the discount, just the discount, it's not that big. Maybe it's a 20% discount. But what it also does is, for the future, this could be something that's mandatory, okay? But it also takes a carrier that would not have looked at you in the past that may come and look at you now. And what that does is it gives me one more carrier to negotiate with, so then it brings it down, it could be possibly more. But right off the bat, if you did it with Citizens, I know we did a little indication, it's probably about a 20% on the association savings, but you would also get a savings on the unit owner side. So, you know, if you're looking long-term and this is your house, like I did, it was tough to swallow, but at some purchases I do, I'm like, oh, even after that one, I was so pleased when it was done. And
I did the same thing on my condo a couple years ago. So other than the front door, because that design isn't finished, my condo is as sealed as it can be. So when we look at all this stuff, again, the reason for wanting to do this video is just to bring everyone up to date. We talked about it in the Kurt video that gets released today, insurance. I promised to do a deep dive on all the topics. This is our first one. So we're in a better position. Are we in the best position we were a few years ago? Not yet, but more will be coming with that. And ultimately, I want to address a couple of things. I was happy that we went through an exercise a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, in terms of we looked at another broker in addition to Mike. I was very unhappy on some of the unprofessionalism that occurred. There was accusations that were leveled in terms of someone's trying to buffer up their commissions and all that kind of stuff. That's just, it's sad when we've got to go through that. I would rather have people compete. I'd rather do it transparently. The one thing, though, I understand from this, though, is the decision of who our carriers will be driven by Seaplace, not by Brown & Brown or any other insurance company. And that's how it is when I sell a home. It's always done by the seller. It makes that decision.
Let me make sure we're clear here, too, because you said something that kind of triggers a nerve with me, because a lot of people think that, you know, Brown & Brown, large company, one, we have alliances. No, we don't. We have relationships, and they're different for every association, but we get paid the same way everyone else does. It gets paid by Citizens, by the federal government, and Citizens is a state-run organization. That's your biggest premium, and the federal government does your flood. That's your other big one. There's no way to get them to come down on that pricing or to rebate anything back. So I wanted to be clear on that some people say, well, Mike's getting paid more than this other agency, or he can do this. There's no Mike's kids are going to college fees on there or anything like that. So it's the same fees no matter where you go.
So I'll go out on a limb here because I'm brutally honest all the time.
Sure.
I have a feeling that when those kind of accusations come out is because those folks really don't have a good case to make. So they take it down to something that's just absurd. And I guess because I'm a real estate broker and I get paid commission for my deals, I'm sensitive when someone accuses us of trying to pack commission levels and stuff like that. But the key thing is we make the decision at Seaplace. Now, with Citizens being the only choice last year, that was a pretty easy decision to make. So that wasn't driven by Brown & Brown. So we've got more to follow. I'm hoping to come back in just a few weeks with some great news in terms of what the numbers may be. We'll see. And even potentially some competition with carriers. I'd like to take a look at that kind of stuff. Mike, is there anything we've missed right now that's important for this update?
No, I think we've covered it all. And again, like we said, hopefully the market will continue to get better. But don't believe everything that you read in the paper. A lot of the stuff that you hear pertains to homeowners, like inland and so forth. So we'll keep you updated if anything changes in the markets that we have.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Again, if you have any questions or any concerns or any comments, feel free to give me a call. My name is Mike Renick. My direct cell is 941-400-8735. Until next time, thanks for watching.